All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over the PowerPoint presentations for Murachs, JavaScript, and Jquery 3rd edition for the AWD Application and Web Development 1000 Web Technologies class. We are up to Chapter 8 of 18, and we're starting Section 2 of the book, which is all about Jquery. So let's just get to it. And in fact, before we do, I guess, one thing that I will do is very quickly show you where some of the magic of Jquery is. And I don't say that to be funny or anything, but if you go out to jquery.com, that's where you download Jquery. We're going to talk all about that today, and that's where there's a lot of really good Jquery information. Also, jqueryui.com that we're going to look at in a little bit. That's got a lot of information. And Jquery plugin. Let's see. Plugins.jquery.com. That's the Jquery plugin registry. So we're going to talk about all of this stuff, not today, but we're going to talk about all of it. Today we're going to concentrate basically on what's in here. All right. So it looks like we have one applied objective and about 10 knowledge objectives. For our applied objectives, basically we want to be able to use Jquery to create and develop common DOM scripting applications. So whereas previously we had been using, for most of this stuff, we had been using JavaScript, now we're going to use Jquery. Okay? Knowledge objectives. Describe Jquery. Describe 2 ways to include the Jquery library in your web pages. In general terms, describe the use of Jquery selectors, methods, and event methods. Describe the syntax for a Jquery selector. Describe the use of the following Jquery methods for working with forms and controls: val, text, next, submit, and focus. Describe the use of object chaining. Describe the use of the following Jquery methods: prev, find, attr, css, add class, remove class, toggle class, html, hide, show, and each. Describe the Jquery event methods: ready, click, mouse over, and hover. Describe the use of the event object and how to use the prevent default method. Finally, describe the use of the this keyword within a function for an event method. Now, let me tell you before we get started, I don't know of anybody that I have ever met that I would consider to be an expert on Jquery. If you asked me, what are you in Jquery? On a 1 to 10, probably a 4 or a 5. I've used it, not nearly as much as I would like to, all right? And every time I teach the class, I think I get a little bit better at it. So this is the website. I've already shown that to you. We're going to look at it in just a minute. The first thing to realize is Jquery is a JavaScript library. In other words, Jquery is JavaScript. As it says right there, it offers dozens of selectors and different kinds of methods that make it easier for you to add Jquery features to web pages. It's cross-browser compatible. So when you do things with Jquery, they should look, ideally at least, the same, regardless of whether you are using Internet Explorer, Edge, Chrome, Firefox, Opera, or whatever. All right, the selectors are compliant with CSS3, so it's supporting all the latest and greatest. It is a compressed library, or it can be. It loads quickly and it doesn't degrade performance too much. So they've got here the FAQ presentation in a browser, but before we do that, let's go and take a look at the website itself. So first thing that they give us here is, what is Jquery? And here's the definition. Jquery is a fast, small, and feature-rich JavaScript library. It makes things like HTML document traversal and manipulation, event handling, animation, and AJAX, which is asynchronous JavaScript and XML, much simpler with an easy-to-use API, that's Application Program Interface, that works with a multitude of browsers, with a combination of versatility, and extensibility, jQuery has changed the way that millions of people write JavaScript. That's a very bold claim, but it's true. And from what I've read, about 75% of the top 10,000 websites used in the world today use jQuery. So what is it? It's a bunch of code. If you want to download it, you can click right here, and you'll notice that there's different versions of it. All right. In fact, I should just back up again. It says the 1.x and 2.x branches no longer receive patches. 1.x was the jQuery that came out, geez, it must be somewhere around 10 years ago now. And it had support even for older versions of Internet Explorer, like version 6, 7, and 8. Version 2, I believe, offered support for versions 9 and 10. And version 3, which is the newest, latest, and greatest, and actually 3.3.1, is not supporting the older versions of Internet Explorer anymore. So what is it? Well, notice first of all, there's two versions. There's a compressed version and there's an uncompressed version. Let's see if we can look at each one. First, let's look at the compressed version. All right. So here it is. I don't think it's going to let us open it like this. Yeah, it's going to give us an error. So let's see. Show in folder. I'm going to open that right now using Notepad++. And it looks like there's only 2 lines in here, Jeff. No. There are so many lines in here. This file has been compressed, which means that all of the unnecessary comments and white space have been removed. If you want to actually see the source, you can download the uncompressed version. And if you do that, this is the same file, but notice it's 1/3. The compressed is 1/3 the size, basically, all right, of the uncompressed. So the uncompressed has got all of the comments, all of the code in there, and you'll notice, geez, the last time I looked, I was going to say there was around 10,000 lines, and what do we have here? 10,365 lines. So these are a bunch of JavaScript routines that you can use. They're library routines or functions that you can use to, so you don't have to write the code yourself. The difference again between the compressed and the uncompressed version is the uncompressed has been changed so it removes any extraneous white space. It becomes 1/3 the size of the uncompressed version. Now, the chances of you ever wanting to change anything in the jQuery file itself should be 0. So you're better off downloading the compressed version. It's smaller and it loads faster. If you download these versions and put them in your program, your jQuery will work even if you don't have an internet connection. All right. The other thing that you can do is you can go down and you can use what's called a CDN, which is a content delivery network. So let me just go over here to Google CDN. So I can go in and I can add this line of code. Let's bring it up here. A little hard to see right there. So I'm going to bring up that line of code. There it is. And what that says is rather than me having to use jQuery and download it myself, go out to the internet and find jQuery for me and download it. The advantage to doing that is twofold. First, you don't have to worry about having the latest and greatest jQuery. All right, you're downloading it from the internet. Okay? So that's one thing. You don't have to worry about it. Second of all, there's probably a chance that the user, if they're going around different places on the internet, may already have jQuery available to them from one of the other sites they've gone to. That's the advantage. The disadvantage is, notice we're linking up here to an internet address. So if we don't have internet capability, we're not going to be able to use these or use this. All right, that's just to get you started. All right, so what they do next here is they go back and they rebuild the FAQ application. Remember, if you click on the plus sign, it opens up. If you click on the minus sign, it closes up. And let's see if we can get this to work. Now there's just a main in here, so I'm going to have to come in and add all of my tags and the like. So my doc type, etc. So I'll just paste that in here. Let's end our body tag, and let's end our HTML tag. All right, and I've got to grab one of our older files, if I can find them. I've just recently tried to clean this thing up. That should work. Let's close that. All right. I'll have a style sheet in here that I'm not even using, so that's no biggie. All right. Now there's other things we're going to have to add in here, so let's just quick take a look. All right, the critical CSS. So this will become style.css. The plus and minus, I'm going to have to see if I can grab those. So this will just become style.css in just a second. Looks good enough. So we'll just throw this right on the desktop. Style.css, that's good. I gotta find this plus and minus pings. And first, let me go in there and create a folder called images. All right, now let me go out to where I've got these slides and I've got other information here. I don't know. Don't want those. I never know where this stuff is, so let me look for it. All right, so let's open this file location. Come on. And there we go, those are the files I want, copy them to the clipboard, throw them into the images folder. Well, that's good, that's a good start. And here's the Jquery, okay? We will put this into its own file. Paste that in. We're just going to call this right from here. In fact, let's make a JS folder here. And we'll call this script.js. Not the greatest name, but it'll do. All right, so there's my Jquery. It'll come together. Just give me a couple minutes here. All right. Well, they talked about the website for downloading Jquery. I already showed it to you. How to include Jquery. There's two ways of doing it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab that CDN that I put in there before. All right. So in other words, I'm going to come over to here where I had just put this file. Copy that to the clipboard, and I don't know exactly where they're going to have us put this, so I'm going to put it right in the bottom of my body section. There's a lot of debate as to where you actually should put your, oh, isn't that interesting, div dot 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 dot. Well, that's not going to work very well. In fact, let's throw that in here. There's that. All right, now let's come back in here and let's save this as index.html. All right. For right now, I'm going to grab this and comment it out, because otherwise I don't think it would work very well. All right. So some of this stuff I've already talked about with you. Now, they also have what's called a slimmed version of jQuery 3.1.1, and I believe that right now the recommendation is that you actually use that particular one. So I'm going to try to find out. I did read this, believe it or not, but see. jQuery recommends that you use a sub-resource integrity version. All right, I don't know if that's the one that they're talking about in here or not, which helps that resources hosted by the CDN haven't been tampered with. And I don't think that's actually the one. I'm looking for the slim stuff. As jQuery has gone on, they've dropped features that were included in earlier versions if they think they're no longer necessary. All right, and I think that's what the slim one does, is it gets rid of some of that. Here's the release dates. Again, as of September 2016, it's 3.1.1. You may or may not have noticed, we're already at 3.3.1. This is open source software, which means anyone can look at it, anyone can download it. In fact, you can download the binary version of the executable. So if there are changes made today, which is Monday, January 29th, 2018, you can have those changes. You can also suggest changes if you want to. There's that SRI thing that I mentioned for you. It does some stuff with integrity. So, syntax for a jQuery selector. Before we do that, and I might be way out in left field here, but I'm going to do a, let's see, everything's been saved. I'm going to just see if we run this, what happens, if anything. All right. Well, not what I thought would happen, but that's okay. Let's jump back into our code here. So jQuery, in order to be very successful with jQuery, you have to understand the subject of jQuery selectors, which basically are very similar to CSS selectors. The $ is a shortcut, not for the document.get element by ID that we looked at before, but the $ is a shortcut for the use of the word jQuery. Little j, big Q, little U-E-R-Y. So you say $, then one way you can do this is to put your selector in there. Okay? So let's see. If we come in here and we put in here, for example, H2, that would say select all H2 tags, as an example. All right. So let's see, we've got here main. Well, I don't know if that one's better than the one we looked at before, worse or not. But I'm going to grab that, copy that to the clipboard, come back to my file again, grab that main, because the one I just looked at looks more complete. Okay, the reason it's not doing anything right now when we run this is we have not written any of our own jQuery. All right, we're going to in just a minute. So this is just standard HTML, you should be able to look at that and understand what's going on. All right. So we can select elements, as it says, by element. So this would select all paragraph elements in the entire document. We can select by ID. So this would select any element that has an ID, remember that's the pound sign, of FAQs, or by class. This would select any element with a class of minus. How to select elements by relationship. So again, you can do things that are descendants. So this would be any paragraph element that was a descendant of or existed inside of something with the ID of FAQ. These would be adjacent, so they would be on the same level as one another. So these would be all divs, for lack of better words, that are brothers or sisters from H2 tags. General, this would be any sibling. So this would be children, grandchildren, etc. All right? And these would be all elements that are children of divs. If you don't understand, give me some time. We're going to go take a look at it. All right? These are multiple selectors. So this would say this and this and this. All right? The way that you typically call a jQuery method is what's shown right there. Some of the common jQuery methods are shown on the slide here. I will tell you, if you have not already looked at it, that this particular section of the book, section 2, is just filled with tables. The table that you see right here with the common jQuery methods is shown on page 235 in the text. Val is what's called a getter when there's nothing inside of it. It gets the value of whatever the control is. Val with a value in it is known as a setter. It allows you to set the value of a control. Text without anything in the parentheses gets the text of an element. Text with a value in the parentheses sets the text of an element. Next with type gets the next sibling of an element. Submits the selected form. Focus moves the focus to the selected form or control. So to call a jQuery method, what you see up on top there, you code a selector, followed by the dot operator, followed by the method name, and that method may or may not have parameters. You can also use something that we'll see as we go on in here called object chaining, when you code one method after another, separated by periods. Now you'll typically use the methods that are shown here, and typically you'll use the ones without anything in the parens. Okay? But it always depends on what it is you're trying to do. So here's some examples that call jQuery methods. So notice in this case, it's val with parentheses. It's on the right-hand side of an equal sign. We are getting the value of the ID gallons, and we're assigning it to a local JavaScript variable called gallons. Here, since we've got something in the parens, we are setting the value of the ID of gallons to the empty string. And there's other ways that you can do it too. All right. Here's an example of chaining. This dot next dot something or else, something else. To code a jQuery event handler, again, you code the selector, the dot, the name of the event method, and an anonymous function. You already know what an anonymous function is. We talked about it earlier. It's an unnamed function. All right. Ready is the event handler that runs when the DOM or document object model is ready. Click is the event handler that runs when the selected element is clicked. Now, the event handler for the ready event will run any methods that it contains as soon as the DOM is ready, even if the browser has not yet loaded images and other page content. It works better than the JavaScript onload event because that event, the onload, doesn't occur until all the page content has been loaded. When you code one event handler within another, the use of closing braces, parentheses, and semicolons is critical. All right, you may even want to put some comments in there to say when one is started, what goes with what, etc. Now, there's a long way of doing this, and there's a short way of doing this. The authors recommend, and that's what they use in here, believe it or not, is the long way, until you get used to and familiar with exactly what's going on in here and how it's being done. All right. So this is set up so that if you click any H2 heading, an alert will come up that says the heading has been clicked. Kind of a silly, convoluted example, but just to show you what you can do. This is doing it one way. This is doing it within a ready handler. All right, so some of the terms you should be at least a little bit familiar with by now are CDN, which is Content Delivery Network. Again, that's a way that you can actually bring Jquery into the system without physically having to put it on your system. Selectors, which are kind of the key to this. Methods, which are what you call. Object chaining, which is calling one method on some kind of an object right after the other, use it with a dot between them. And different event methods, and we just quickly looked at ready and click. All right, so next they come back and they rewrite the email list application, and they rewrite it using Jquery. The idea behind doing this, just so you know, is to start showing you that you end up, by and large, writing a lot less code when you write Jquery, a lot less JavaScript code. Now, this isn't going to really change. This is the HTML. In fact, I think it's part 1 of the HTML. So let's grab that. I know we never got this to work, but let's grab that anyway. All right, so there's the beginning of it. I think this is the rest of it. Now this is an email list application, so I'm just going to call this email list.html. There it is. I'm sure a little of it will look funky for now, but that's fine. So let's just save this and run it. And that's what it looks like. Now, right now, it looks a little weird. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll have to fix that. But there's no HTML on it, and there's been no CSS added. So I just threw that one in there. And I think I need this. Let's see if that fixed that up any. There we go. All right, so again, no CSS put on this yet. So please, please do not worry about it, okay? All right. Now here's the Jquery, and there's a lot of it. Let's put it in. All right, hopefully, and I really and truly ran over this way too quickly. Let's see. There's the adding of Jquery, and there they're doing it in the head section, which is just fine. Let's do this here. And we're going to call this right here. We'll call this email list .js. Okay, so there's our JavaScript. I'm already getting close to 30 minutes, so all I'm going to do is quickly add this. All right. And there's more. And then we'll come back in the next part of the lecture here, and we'll explain exactly what this code is, what it means, what it does, etc. Because I'm always this way, I'm just going to come in here. And so there's that. We also want to come in and we want to add here, oops, I don't know how we lost our script tag there. All right, but I also want to come in here and just add hours. So that was email list.js, and then our ending script tag. Now, chances of, oh, there it is. The chances of this working right now are probably not great, but let's try it anyway. There we go. We don't have our CSS in yet, but that's good. All right, so let's stop right here. We will pick it up. We're about halfway through with the chapter, so we will pick it up in just a minute. All right, we will pick it up right here in just a couple minutes.